The following podcast has been brought to you by Audible.com. Sign up now using the URL audibletrial.com/TTV to get a free audiobook of your choosing. We recommend Brick by Brick, How LEGO Rewrote the Rules of Innovation and Conquered the Global Toy Industry. You may recognize this as one of the sources we use in our show, Bionicle Autopsy. Remember, that's audibletrial.com/TTV. Enjoy the show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, sync! Hey everybody, welcome to TTV Talks. I'm Kahi.
I'm Messina.
I'm LJ.
I'm Venom.
I'm Viper. And this is TTV Talks.
Great start. So, how's everybody going? I can said it again.
nowhere.
How's everybody going? How's things going? Not everybody.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
How's
we're
things doing?
We're all
How's things doing? Yeah.
We're
Ah,
going
things
on a
are doing
journey,
well.
guys.
How's
Yeah.
such in life?
Don't ever
no,
say
I-
that again.
Personally, I would like to go to a nice fluffy pillow because my head's still a little cloudy. Because you know what? Movie theaters suck. I don't like movie theaters at all.
You don't like him because you don't watch stuff with the right audience.
I don't care about the audience. The audience isn't my
is such
issue.
a big part.
The audience
it's such a big
is not
part
going
of the
to
thing.
help me.
Listen.
that's
Last
what you
week
don't know,
I
though.
saw. Right, you haven't been to like a really great movie with a great audience.
Okay,
like last week I saw
okay.
Age of Ultron.
I have been
and I
to
had
a
probably the
populated-
best audience that we could ever ask for. They laughed whenever it was appropriate to laugh. They did all the right emotions whenever when I guess this is kind of a spoiler. So spoiler in case you haven't watched Age of Ultron.
Alert.
Basically, this whole
Right.
video, we'll probably talk about Age of
Right.
Ultron.
But that one scene, of course, this is a scene that everybody notices, is when Vision turns around and he approaches Thor and he has Thor's hammer and he kind of he's like, we have to go. And everyone had to whoa.
Everyone had the oh my goodness
Yeah,
face.
same with
Yeah,
my
they
theater.
had.
You
It
see,
went all around. It was
That's
great. And
that's fine
it's a
and
Joss
all.
Whedon movie, man.
That's
there's so
great.
many great
That's
funny parts
absolutely
to laugh
wonderful.
at.
I'm glad you had a really good movie theater experience. That doesn't matter to me.
Hey, if you actually
don't
went to a
like-
cinema with a full house, you might meet new friends.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't care about going. I don't go to a movie theater to socialize. I go to watch a movie because either I have vested interest in it, or you guys really want me to watch this movie. I don't go there for any other reason than to see what's on the screen. And I swear, just a movie theater in general bugs me. It either smells like really ugly popcorn, or the sound is way too loud and I'm actually physically vibrating, or the movie's so blurry and large it makes my head hurt. I don't
smell
like
Or
movie
option
theaters.
D.
well,
option
you're
D,
wrong.
you're just a chump and you can't handle
You're
it.
the guy that eats and drinks during movies. Because of that, because of fools like you, my
98%
younger brother
of
missed out on the
people.
mid-credits scene, Meso. That proves my point. That absolutely proves my point. People like that deserve to miss out on parts of the movie. By the way, Age of Ultron is great.
Yeah, I was just say, hey, you had a masterful segue at the beginning, and then I tried to segue into Age of Ultron, and you went back to the original thing. I don't know what to say about
insane.
movie theaters.
Kahi,
This is TTV Talks about
Kahi,
movie
you
theaters.
See, it would have worked out if you just let me transition.
No, you didn't transition.
No, you messed it up. No,
you-
just
no,
like our last
initially-
intro.
initially,
you messed it up.
you left.
You screwed it all up, Kahi.
We had a good thing going on, and we were talking about Age of Ultron, and then you had to go back and complain about movie
You know,
theaters for
you
whatever
really
reason.
are like Tony Stark.
No
you
wonder
go in with good
Ultron wants to
intentions,
kill
but
us
you
all.
screw
Look
it
at
all
these
up
two.
because someone's
Welcome
messing
back
with your
to
mind.
whose ego is bigger than the other.
Remember that time I flew for the wormhole? Anybody? No?
Never came up.
Nope. What's that?
Nice. No, Age of Ultron was a fantastic movie. This will
I
be our
really
unofficial
enjoyed it.
review. Usually we do movie reviews, but this time in particular, now we have TTV Talks, so that's kind of replacing it.
Where
know,
should
I
we
love
start,
that.
guys?
Let's
Why do we
start
need
at
to
the
recap?
beginning.
No.
So,
Let's not recap
Hydra.
it.
Yo, listen.
Oh well,
We
I'd
are
just
not
like
recapping
to-
the movie.
I'd just
Too
like
long
to
of a
say
movie.
that the first 5 minutes of the movie for me were in pink and green. It was quite psychedelic, but I didn't really know what was going on.
Why
I
was
like
that?
I like the start of that movie where they make it very clear they know that you are in here to see the Avengers, and they're just going with it. They're not reintroducing the characters again, not doing the thing where they're building it. Like in the first Avengers, there's a good chunk of time where they spend the time showcasing each Avenger and like how they're recruited back. You know, Hawkeye is there at the beginning, and then you get like, you know, oh, Captain America. What's Captain America up to? What's Iron Man up to? What's the Hulk up to?
This episode
What's
is
Black
just
Widow
this
up to?
episode. This movie, it's like all of the Avengers versus Hydra, and that's the plan.
Right. It literally starts with like them all fighting.
Yeah.
Best
And-
possible thing they could have done.
Yeah. I said before, I wish that was the end of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. tie-in episode.
Yeah,
Or
would've
one of the
been cool.
two tie-in episodes. Because at the end, they're like, oh, you know, are you ready? And like Coulson's like, yeah, you know, send the Avengers. And I thought that would be a great moment to end on when they're, you know, they're all jumping in midair.
That
and like that
synchronized
cuts off.
jump sequence is like too good.
That shot is one of my favorite shots in all cinema.
Hydra got wrecked.
It's pure fan
Yeah.
service. It's,
They
there's
didn't
no
even
like,
stand a
art into
chance.
it, but
I just slipped.
I love the lampshade
That's
too.
from
They're like,
Kopaka.
can we hold them? Like, sure, they're the Avengers.
Yeah.
They're the Avengers.
Strucker, I kind of expected more from Strucker.
Yeah, I
I'm not
expected
gonna
more
lie.
out of Hydra in general. I'm
Even
pretty
like the
surprised
bootleg,
that-
even like the bootleg Hydra leaders on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. put up more of a fight than Strucker did, and he's like an actual dude from the comics.
Strucker
isn't
is an
it?
actual guy from the comics, but he's. I mean, I would rather he be cut out of this movie entirely and more screen time be given to Ultron. So I'm glad of the involvement he was given. I didn't want to see more of him than I saw more of Ultron. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Ultron
Makes
is the
sense.
main villain of this film,
And what a villain he is.
man, there's.
Oh my gosh, Ultron is fantastic.
Ultron.
I love.
There's
I
like a
love
new
Ultron.
fan base has been born because of Ultron.
A lot of people. I actually read online that some people are not happy with Ultron's portrayal in this movie because
Really?
they felt that like, oh, Ultron's supposed to be imposing and like this giant robot.
He
villain.
would stick
and,
out like a sore thumb, and every other villain in Phase 2 has tried to be imposing, and well, look how they
He was
turned
imposing.
out.
Ultron was imposing.
Well, yeah,
But
he
yeah,
was,
Ultron's
but
funny.
they
Yeah,
mean
it
like
was really imposing.
seriously imposing, like serious, like Zactan serious.
Oh my god, no. Listen, lady. Let's not make bionicle comparisons when we're talking
if you
seriously.
wanted to say imposing, it's like you want to be like Walter White imposing.
If you want
Like
to say
Tywin
imposing,
Lannister
you look at his scene with Ulysses Clow.
Cloud.
Clow.
But no,
But
you know,
Ult-
honestly, I think Ultron is great, but I think it would have benefited more for him to have more time focused on him.
Yeah.
I agree. There were like big stretches of the movie where he just wasn't shown.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do get some people are saying like the beginning when it shows him going evil, it's like we kind of get that, but there seems to be a dialogue, like a piece of dialogue missing where he's like, "Oh no, these people are terrible."
Yeah.
Like he looks through Tony Stark and he looks through all the Avengers. He's like, "Oh, yeah, these look interesting," and then he kind of kills Jarvis, and then that's it.
Yeah. It's
just
not
full
that there was like a stepping stone that got lost in the pond.
First,
Yeah, but
full
I
disclosure,
think-
the thing
I
which
think-
will be looming
okay.
over this review, and it is probably the movie's biggest and only really severe fault, is that it was in the initial draft of the movie was like 3.5 hours long.
Right.
From what we understand, there's 30 minutes to an hour of deleted scenes that will be included on the DVD
DVD.
release.
Yeah,
I
getting
can
that
tell you a bit
DVD.
more about those scenes later because I listened to that entire interview of Joss
Yeah.
Whedon.
So
I'm kind of
there were a
obsessed.
lot of parts of the movie I felt like scenes were missing or
It's like
omitted,
Right.
it's
probably
like-
because they are.
It's like the Amazing Spider-Man when they just cut out loads of
Yes.
scenes and some bits didn't make sense or were a bit of a leap in the story.
Pretty
Right.
much. Now, thankfully, everything in Avengers does make sense, but there are points where it could have been elaborated on better.
And I think that's the big deal for me with this movie is that the parts where I feel bad, they aren't bad because they aren't well done, or like they had a bad script, or because something was,
There just
it's
wasn't
just
enough
because,
to it.
yeah, it's like
Exactly.
they didn't have enough time.
I want more.
Yeah, it felt kind
Yeah,
of
actually-
rushed at points.
I
It was
haven't
just
really,
like-
I didn't really notice anything in my first watch of the movie, and I have yet to really complete a second watch in the movie. So,
Fair enough.
yeah, my first viewing in the movie, I don't know. I guess maybe my mind blanked out, but I didn't really pay attention to the idea that this movie was originally supposed to be 3 hours long. I just took it
Fair
for
enough.
what it was, and I don't know. I enjoyed it a lot. And like you said, it did make
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
The
There
one
were no
point
points where it was like
I didn't
glaring.
notice it either the first time, other than when Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver just randomly went into that church. I was just like, okay,
And Ultron was already there with his
let's
full
just
body.
explore this church
Right.
and conveniently find Ultron.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
and Ultron is just there too with like his like you said,
He's,
his
like,
full
sat
body.
there.
He just made his body somehow, and it's there. And then the other big thing
yeah.
for me is Thor.
Okay, there was that.
Thor suffers the most from this editing.
I
and
just
stuff.
realised there's a scene in like the trailers that we didn't see. You know the part where you see the hand and the molten metal goes over his hand. We never saw
Oh
that.
yeah.
There's
in
also
that was
the
probably him
girl.
making his body.
yeah.
Also, the girl going into the pond. We didn't see that
Oh
either.
yeah, we didn't, did we? No.
I can. All right. So here's what Joss Whedon said. This is the parts that happened with Thor that were cut out of the movie. There's these like ancient Norse diviners, basically called the Norn. The Norn are these people, and they dwell in these pools, and basically, the idea is that they're able to tell the future and they're able to answer questions. So when Thor goes and finds Eric Selvig, they're supposed to go down into the pond. Now, what's deleted is that Thor goes into the pond and he gets possessed by one of the Norn, and he acts and he basically asks questions to Eric, and Eric is asked the questions to Thor, but Thor is possessed by this other person. And from the way Joss Whedon described it, it was like the whole scene was built around Chris Hemsworth, like having this completely different demeanor and like doing all this stuff. And he said it was absolutely hilarious and it was great. And they had to cut it because the studio said, well, we either will cut this cave scene or we're going to cut the farm.
Yeah. Okay.
And Joss was like, we need the farm. We really do need the
Yeah,
farm.
the cave scene, it was much better. So,
Yeah.
here's the thing.
Wow.
Thor, I don't think that Thor... Did I say the cave scene was better? I meant to say the cave scene being cut was a better
right,
choice.
right.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
yeah.
Definitely.
My
made the right
mistake.
choice.
The thing with Thor, yeah, it was weird he was gone. He was gone for a lot of it. But I don't think him being there would have added to it. Like the scene where they were chasing Vision in the truck, I think the dynamic of those three people worked really well. And having Thor there would have messed that up. So I don't actually mind him being off screen.
Yeah, Thor
Yeah,
is...
yeah. I think the original film works pretty well. There's also part of the vision that he goes back into. He actually meets Loki there as well. Loki was originally going to be.
Oh yeah,
in
I
this,
remember reading
in
about
that
that.
scene. Right. And there's a point Joss Whedon wrote. He said I wrote this point where like Thor, like Loki says something, or he says he's doing something, and Thor turns to him and says, "Loki, what would Father say?" And then Loki does like a spot-on Odin impression, and then Thor's like, "Well, you actually do that really well. You could really pull that off." And it's like it's supposed to be Thor's subconscious going like, "Hey, Loki is taking over the throne of Asgard, and he's posing as
Hey,
Odin right
Thor.
now." And it was supposed to be like this foreshadowing thing, and it got cut. So
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
You know, I don't exactly mind that it got cut because, before I had seen the film, you guys are saying, man, if they had added any more characters, it would have teetered over. And I kind of recognize that at the
never said
very
that.
end and during the party scene with Falcon. Falcon seemed like he was just chucked in there so Captain
Yeah.
America could have his sidekick like Iron Man did. And at the very end, he, like, flies in. It's like, I'm here. I'm Falcon. Look, I got red in my costume now, right? Like the comics, right?
I love that. I love that the Avengers movies has all these characters coming together.
That's how he
like
was there.
that he
I
was
wish
there.
I
It
wish
just
he had been
seemed
there
odd.
with War Machine. It felt odd
Yeah,
how he was gone
exactly.
the entire movie because I've been saying this. This was another one of the two really big instances. One was the church, and the other was Falcon that stuck out to me. After the party, Rhodey was down there talking to them all, and Falcon wasn't. He was just gone.
Yeah.
Nobody
yeah,
knows what happened to him.
that's a big deal that I also like. I wish that Falcon was also there in that party scene too. I don't know where Falcon went in that party scene. I felt that he should have been a part of that, as much as anybody else.
Yeah. Well, he was there. He was just kind of walking around, and then when Ultron attacked, he disappeared. And nobody knows where he went.
Well, no, okay, Rhodey. See,
For
for
at least
Rhodey
that
and
scene.
Falcon, that makes sense. At least for Rhodey, because he's he's a military guy. He works with the government. He's sanctioned. The Avengers are all sponsored by Tony. He makes a note of that. He's like, I pay for everything. I do all this stuff. But Rhodey is a U.S. I think he's a colonel, right? He's Colonel James Rhodes. Yeah. So he has to respond to the military, whatever the military wants him to do. That does not often include, border interaction. What's it? Sloconia? What was the name of the country? I forget it. Something.
Discount Russia.
Yeah, basically it's like Slovakia except spelled differently. But basically,
Is it Slovenia?
Until the intervention of S.H.I.E.L.D., he's not allowed to cross those borders, I don't think. Or he's doing something for the U.S. military. But it makes sense why he's not there. Until, the very end where he's shooting people.
Yeah, I hate to backtread, but I enjoyed the dream sequences.
Those dream sequences were awesome.
Especially Black Widow's
man.
one, because her identity was shrouded in mystery for such a long time, and it still is. But you were like, what is up with the Red Room?
Yeah.
You're like, what is up with the Red Room? And I found her dream the most disturbing out of all of them. It goes Thor, Captain America, then Black Widow's.
I thought Thor, Black Widow's gets really creepy at the end where she passes those kids with their mouths sewn.
No, I didn't like the part with the hostage when it first started off as a target and then it changed to a man with a bag and his head crying.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Real quick, it's Sokovia.
Sokovia.
Oh
Okay.
yeah,
Right.
Sokovia.
So basically, discount Russia.
It's Sokovia.
Czech Republic.
Yeah, it's
Dude,
discount Czech Republic.
Stinking Quicksilver. He zooms in, AK-47. All right, get to work. Bam, he's out. That's Russia.
Yeah,
it's
actually,
Czech
that
Republic.
reminds me. Didn't Ultron wipe out a country in the comics called Slow something?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's touched
Slovakia.
upon. There's the big deal I dislike about comics and a bit about the movies too is that they make up a lot of countries because they want to do stuff involving those countries, but they don't want to see the backfire from people that actually live there.
Yeah, they don't want to.
If you see DC, DC has North and South
Gotham.
Malaysia, who are both inhabited by Asians, and the North is a dictatorship and the South is a republic. And you're like, all right, come on, really? You can just say Korea,
Well,
okay, guys?
There's
We're
Gotham
big boys. We
as
can
well,
handle,
which is basically New York.
Well, Gotham, I feel, is more basically Chicago.
Yeah.
Well, it's
And then
a
Metropolis is a bit more
hybrid
like
of
New York.
and
Yeah.
Chicago.
But Chicago is just all dark. I live in Illinois, so Chicago's terrible. I hate Chicago.
Gotta watch out
But
for those
anyhow,
watch
it hates
dogs
you.
in Chicago.
The thing that I liked about the dream sequences is that it gave us another level of the character development and also character motive. And you see that happen throughout. And the one thing I'm liking about how they're building up Captain America versus Tony Stark is, that scene where they're chopping wood and then Iron Man's like, oh, isn't this why we fight the battle so we can win and go home? And then Captain America's like, oh, every time someone tries to preemptively end something, innocent people always get hurt. Which is true, and it carries over from what he saw in Winter Soldier, but it's also contradicting, it's masking his true motive, and that's in his dream, where his nightmare is that Peggy's there, and he's like, the war's over, and we can just go home, and that nothing's done anymore, everything's good. And he can't live with that anymore. He needs to fight something. So in a way, what Iron Man's saying is isn't the point that we have to, finish everything and then just fight and it's all over? And he's like, no, that's not the point at all. I don't want that to happen. I can't imagine that happening.
He says,
but
that,
he's like,
he was kind of referencing back to Captain America 2. He's like, whether people try and prevent a war, innocent people die, always.
Right. And it's like this dual layers where he's drawing from experience. He's not wrong, but he's also masking a more kind of selfish motive. And that's going to tie into Civil War, where Tony is not really going to be wrong for the Superhero Registration Act, but he's going to be masking his own ego and wanting to atone for his sins.
And see, this is really interesting because there's always this ongoing question of what Captain America's purpose is in the modern day. Now that he's been taken out of his own time, what is he there for? He's just there to be Captain America. So what happens when he doesn't have to be Captain America anymore?
It's like
He's dead.
It's like what Ultron.
Yeah, they're probably gonna kill him off.
It's like what Ultron said. He's just like, Captain America. I find it so funny how you pretend to exist outside of a war.
I can't physically throw up in my mouth, but man, that dialogue
back
is
to
so
loving
good.
Ultron. I really loved Ultron.
I love
I
Ultron,
love Ultron,
too.
so good. So
Considering
good. love him
I
so
always
much.
thought Loki was kind of not fitting to be an Avengers 1 main antagonist, I quite enjoy Ultron.
I
thought
wouldn't
he was
go far
okay.
as say that. I think they're actually very similar in a way. They're
Yeah.
both very egotistic and they're both very out to get people. But I think Ultron does kind of edge out, even though toward the end of the movie I found him a bit annoying.
I
Loki
think the
didn't
thing of
pose
Loki
like any
is that
threat.
Loki poses a lot of threat, and yes, he
He
does.
poses a lot of threats to like Thor, but they had him like locked up in a cage, like halfway, not even half, a quarter of the way through the
Manipulating
movie.
everybody
And it
through
was
the-
like, oh, it's his plan. But if it wasn't for like Thanos and the Chitauri, he would have been no threat at all on his own.
Well, okay, I mean, fair enough. On that, or like, they're not all fighting, not just fighting Loki, but they're not just fighting Ultron too. They're fighting all the Ultron drones.
They're fighting Ultron.
Loki.
'cause
Someone
he's-
said the big thing with Loki is that Loki does get a great scene with nearly all of the Avengers,
Yes.
Yeah.
and Ultron
Loki
does
worked as an antagonist. He does not work as a primary antagonist.
not. Oh, okay,
Loki's the
fair
kind
enough,
of guy
fair
that's
enough.
like secondary, and he's mixing it up with people and having good character interactions and messing with their head and trolling them and going along to suit his own purposes. Kind of like Thor: The Dark World,
Are you
which was his
ever going
best
to
showing.
stop falling for that?
Yeah, exactly. But Ultron, he's everywhere.
He's everywhere.
One thing, yeah, okay.
the
The thing I like
time.
about Ultron is that they could have done in the comics. He's really just like a super smart villain computer, and you've seen this everywhere. You've seen like any movie where a robot goes evil. Ultron is like, you know, that supposed to be that archetype.
Yeah.
And they did a perfect thing here, where instead of making him this like super calculating, always in control robot that you've seen quite a few times, they basically made him evil Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Evil Tony Stark,
Yeah.
who was born like 4 days ago.
Oh,
Man.
it's so
And
great.
I feel that works in perfectly with the Marvel Universe, because Iron Man kickstarts the whole thing. He's kind of like, he's basically the heart of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
He's in front and center of everything. And so they face off against Ultron.
My
pretty
favourite
awesome.
scene in the entire movie is with Claw. When they were
Yeah, right.
negotiating
When he-
with,
Don't
quote
compare
unquote,
me
negotiating
to Tony
with him.
Stark, and they just chops his
Cuts his
arm off.
arm.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sure that's gonna heal.
Then he kicks him down the stairs.
And like he has that thing too where he's not like, you know, he still has his moments where he's like, oh, that's my bad. Like when the twins discover his plan, and he's like, no, guys, come on.
I felt so bad for him during, and then when he captured Black Widow, he's just like, I have nothing to show my
Yeah,
to show
he's
my
like-
work to, so I'll show it to you instead.
Yeah, you
I
need
thought that
somebody
was
to talk
hilarious.
to. I thought that was great.
Oh,
It's a great reason for like people are like, oh, you know, why do people always just kidnap somebody? Why not kill them? And he's like, oh, I could kill you, but I need somebody to talk to.
oh.
Yeah, I'm so lonely.
Yeah, I love how he's so direct about it.
I did read this post online, and it said like what would have made Ultron 100% complete, like in between, because he goes for a point where he's like, all these Avengers are pretty, you know, they're destructive, and they could lead to something. He said what would make that transition way easier from going to like that to killing everybody is if someone had brought up the point like, oh, you know, humans are worth saving, and Ultron had been like, okay, well, let's see what they're all up to. Let's check all their browsing history. No, these people all deserve to die. And he was like, imagine if he just ran through everybody's browsing history at once, and he was like, these people have no redeeming qualities whatsoever. I would have, I was like, all right, I could see where he's coming from there.
Just
hilarious
imagine
at this point.
Ultron on the internet somewhere.
Well, I mean, that's it's like someone's like, that's basically what he does. He starts off, the reason why Ultron is the way he is that when he is born, he just reads the entire internet.
Yeah, he goes through the whole internet.
Right. And so, like, that's why he's, like, this annoying, egotistical, like, pretentious, all the, like, you know, teenager who's
Pretty
spouting
much
all
the
this stuff
internet.
about, these things happen, you know, the extinction events before the dinosaurs. It's like, it's because he learned it, he's an internet, you know, he learned it from the internet.
He is the walking robot personification of the internet. How does that make you
An
guys
8
feel?
foot tall robot is a personification of the internet.
So, while we're talking about Ultron, we should also talk about the Vision.
The Vision.
Oh, the
The
Vision.
Vision.
Oh man, the Vision's so great.
Man, Vision was.
I love the Vision too.
The
the
Vision
Vision
was
was really
really
great.
unusual because I could never get an actual grasp on him. I never really
He's an enigma.
understood what he was supposed to be or how he was what he was.
He's a mystery. It's all because of that mind
It's
gem.
Frankenstein.
Nobody can get a read on him. He's his
Yeah.
own entity.
I mean, I enjoyed him. The actor did a great job, and
Paul
I think that the
Bettany,
character was enjoyable.
The hammer scene.
The hammer thing was very funny.
That was really good. I really didn't see that coming.
That was so strange when he came out the crib and then like flew out the window and just stared out the window.
Yeah,
for
like,
like
he
5
just
seconds.
That was unusual.
And it made you feel
fully red.
uncomfortable in like a strange way. It was good though. And then he like turns around and you're like, oh my god.
And he like looks at Thor and he like takes an appearance that kind of resembles him with the cape.
Right,
and
and the
Yeah.
everything.
cape. I like that. I like that they tied that in. And of course, he rescues Scarlet Witch at the end,
Of
kind of
course.
nodding to them being,
Ship.
OTP.
Speaking of Scarlet Witch,
She was great. She did a great job. Meanwhile, Quicksilver, rip in peace. I was calling it for months.
Rip in
I've been
peace,
saying
so where are
somebody
they
was
now?
gonna die. And
Dude,
I said it had to
listen.
be Rhodey because
Listen.
he was the only one that wasn't
You can't-
in Civil
you can't
War.
be like,
and then
"I've
they
been
cast
calling it
him
for
for
months."
Civil War. I'm not saying I was right. I was because I wasn't. I was saying it
No,
was
no,
Rhodey.
no. I'm saying you can't. Let me finish. You can't say that and then get mad at me when I was like, "Why could you say that somebody would die on the podcast? Why would you put the idea in someone's head?" And you're like,
Listen.
"Well, we don't know that someone's gonna die."
No, Connie,
and I was like, "I
that
know
was your-
someone's
no,
gonna
no,
die."
No. That was your logical fallacy right there. Because Venom said, "Oh, he broached the question to the guy, or he was quoting someone online who was asking who dies." That question does not immediately mean somebody dies. That
Yeah.
isn't a spoiler. If
That is
it's
a
like,
spoiler.
if he said, "Does so and so die?" and it gets a direct answer from that direct answer is a spoiler. Yes
The fact
or
that
no.
anybody can die is a spoiler because you're waiting for it. That being said, I have to give credit to Joss Whedon because he really made it look like Hawkeye was going
Dude,
to die.
Joss
Yeah,
Whedon
except-
came out saying that someone
Yeah.
was going to die in the movie.
The fact. Hold up. No, I want to
He
dissect
said-
what
he said-
Kai
he
the,
said
just
that
said.
after
Hawkeye
the movie.
thing
I
kind
want
of was
to-
ruined for me because I already knew that he was going to be in another movie, so it was just a
Look,
waste.
I want to dissect something Kai just said, please.
Okay.
He says the possibility that somebody can die is a spoiler.
That is ridiculous. Hey, dude,
Kai.
did somebody die? Off-screen extras die.
The possibility
like
for
that.
anyone to die
Listen.
in every movie is a
No,
spoiler.
no. Listen, it's not like that. All right, the idea that anybody can die is a common trope in anything. But just say I'm watching a new latest episode of Game of Thrones, and it's since someone's like, "Oh man, you know what? It got spoiled for me that somebody died." I'm like, "Wow, don't tell me that. Don't tell me."
Yes,
That's
that is
different
a
than the
spoiler.
possibility of somebody dying.
Yeah.
Not does somebody
Okay,
die.
well, no.
Yes.
Because
It's-
then there's variables. It can be yes or it can be
In
no.
in the context of the conversation you were talking about, Ben was talking about stuff that got spoiled for him, and he's like, "Well, I went and I looked up this Avengers, this Q&A on the Avengers: Age of Ultron, and the first question was, who's the person that dies?"
No,
the
it
answer
was
could
no,
have
no, no, no,
just
no. It
as
was
easily been nobody.
yeah.
It could
see,
have,
The question,
but
no,
you're
that
putting that-
wasn't the question. The question was, does somebody die? Wasn't it, Ven?
I don't remember. I think it was something along those lines, though. Yeah.
Okay, that in and of itself is not a spoiler. The spoiler is a yes or a no.
Yeah,
No,
which
the
I did not
spoiler is
reveal.
having. Yeah, I know. I'm not saying that you revealed it. I'm saying that putting the idea in the head that somebody can die of this movie.
What? That's
that's-
Then,
ridiculous.
you know
Hey,
what? Go have a conversation with Joss Whedon because, like I said, he came out saying someone was gonna die, and
He
so
came
did
out saying-
Jeremy Renner. He was like, "Oh, it was nice to see which one of us made it out of the movie."
Yeah, that is a spoiler.
It's-
That right
that
there
can
is
be
a spoiler.
seen as a
Whether or
reference to
not,
Coulson.
yeah, a guy asking, "Hey, does somebody die?" That's not spoiler. It's like going into Serenity in 2005 and going, "Huh, does somebody die?"
Really?
Well, back on
No,
topic.
I'm arguing that it is because knowing that somebody dies changes how you view the movie.
But that's the thing.
I
Then
agree.
knew
I agree
whether or
with
not
you.
Listen,
somebody
no,
died. But the
listen,
question,
listen,
does
listen,
someone die,
LJ.
is not a spoiler.
Yes, it is.
No, it is
because If you go into Serenity knowing that there's a possibility someone's going to die, you expect watch that impact.
You better darn well go into any movie expecting somebody's gonna die.
No, you don't. That's the thing. People don't die in movies most of the time.
Do you
That's why
think, Kahi, do you think you went into Up going, this is a family movie, nobody's gonna die? Is that what you did?
Yes.
Then you're a fool.
Why? It's a family movie. People don't usually
death
die
is
in family
fairly
movies.
common in movies, so I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, okay,
I
no,
find-
fair
I
enough.
find death
Death
is
is at the beginning of the movies, but not the end. Like,
No,
if
Like,
you're like
what's the
Bambi's
number
mom
one
dies.
joke that people come up with when they just say they saw a movie? Oh, dude, just saw Avengers. Yeah, spoiler alert, everyone dies. Ho, ho, ho.
Yeah. You see,
It's
you should
because
go into
nobody
every
usually
single
dies.
movie
It's because people
expecting
usually
some
die.
form.
People
Every
do not
sing-
usually die. They make that joke because nobody usually dies in movies.
You know what? Go into every. This is a word of advice
Main
for anyone
characters do
going
not
to see
usually
TTV
die
movies.
in
talks
movies.
about movie tropes.
Washes death in Firefly. Again, spoilers for Firefly. I should have mentioned that.
No,
beforehand.
wait, no. Meso hasn't seen it. No. You can't
How
do
can
this,
you be
Kahi.
worthy?
It's been out since like
You're all
for like a
killers.
decade.
But he's
okay?
about to see it. He's so close.
Yeah,
All
come
right,
on.
freaking fine. All right, fine, whatever.
Let's go back to talk about Ultron.
Let's go back to talk
Ultron's
about
so
Ultron.
funny.
But that was totally your defense was like, well, we don't know if someone's gonna die. I'm
Yes,
putting that-
because
I
whether or
think
not, you know,
putting
forget
that
it.
idea.
Nope, I'm done. Nope.
Even if I think saying that a movie has a plot twist at the end is a spoiler as well.
That's fine. That's absolutely valid.
that is true.
That's
yeah.
fair enough,
You're
that
right.
one.
But the
You're
question,
right on the money.
Yeah, I know.
does somebody
Because- well-
die, isn't in of itself a spoiler.
Sure, if you ask it and nobody answers, then that's right. But when you're talking in the context of spoilers, Bun's like, man, I got spoiled because I went onto this thing and I read this thing where somebody dies. The idea is if Ben had written it and said, does somebody die, and somebody says no, he wouldn't consider himself spoiled.
But
he
you
would
see-
only consider himself
Kahi.
spoiled.
That's
You're
not the
wrong.
case,
That-
Kahi.
you
If
don't know how that
Because
works,
people
man.
don't die in movies.
No.
Main characters do not usually die in movies.
Okay, that is a preposterous statement.
Main characters do not usually die in movies.
You can't stay here, Wanda. You'll die from the arguments.
All right, fine.
So, yeah, rip in peace, Quicksilver.
Fine.
Moral of the story. I thought
Moral
it
of
was
the
going to be
story.
Rhodey. It wasn't. It was very well done. Better him than Hawkeye. But I can't stop thinking wasted
He was so
potential.
sad. Like when you saw
I
his
like
face, he was
Hawkeye.
looking dead
I
at the
like Quicksilver.
camera, and you're
To,
just like,
to kill off a
"Oh."
character just introduced at a point where we've barely gotten to care enough about him to where it
I
hurts.
had a hunch that
And-
he might die because all the way through the movie he was very confident about saving people and being an
Right,
Avenger,
right.
while Scarlet Witch was just a bit.
It was telegraphed decently well. The execution was very well, but it still feels a little odd. Like
Yeah, it's
they
still
barely
odd,
pulled it
definitely.
off. A little less, and
Right.
then
if
it would
they
not
if they'd
have
killed
struck
him later
well.
on in like the franchise, then yeah, there would have been a bit better.
I think-
but
I think the main thing, and like this is mentioned in the interview, and I don't think it comes across all too much, and I feel that that's what we were going for when writing this thing. The idea isn't so much that Quicksilver dies and you should care about him, because he's only in the movie for a short amount of time. But in Joss Whedon's interview, he said that when he wrote it, he had great enjoyment in making the audience think Hawkeye was going to die. And I mean, they build that up. Like, Tony Stark is like, someone has to be sacrificed. And it turns and it's Hawkeye, and he's looking at the picture of his kid, and his wife's like, just one more project. He's like, all right, just one more project, and from that on, I'm done. And you're like, oh no, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
now,
right. They switch
Yeah,
it. But
and
the thing...
they like put so much characterization into him too throughout the movie.
Right.
You
They
actually
make
have a
it-
reason to like him.
Right, I feel like Hawkeye, I don't question Hawkeye's legitimacy on the team anymore. I felt like the farm was a great scene. But the idea, and it's not properly put across because a lot of these scenes get cut out, but the idea is that Hawkeye legitimately hates Quicksilver. Like, he does not like Quicksilver at all. And, I mean, he's half joking at the end where, they kept that scene in where he has the arrow on Hawkeye, and he's like, or not Hawkeye, on Quicksilver. He's like, I
Nobody
can
would
do it.
know.
that
Nobody
was
would
my
know.
Nobody
favorite
would know.
scene. That was my favorite scene in the entire film.
That was awesome.
So they cut out a lot of interactions between him and Hawkeye, where he just not Quicksilver. I keep saying mixing them up. Hawkeye does not like Quicksilver, and he really doesn't. And at the end, Quicksilver's the one that saves him. And the idea is that Quicksilver. So you're not supposed to care about Quicksilver just because he's a character, but because he died saving Hawkeye, who actually really doesn't like this guy. And it's supposed to be, and he turns around and names his kid after him.
Is that
because he feels so like?
Is
you know,
that
like,
why?
oh, wow,
like, is that what the scene at the end when he's on the carrier and he's lying next to him? Is that supposed to have more meaning? If that scene,
yeah, it's
because I
supposed
was a
to
bit
have-
confused
right.
with that scene. I was just like, what, is Hawkeye gonna die too? Great,
Exactly, because they cut some of those scenes out. But the idea is that like Hawkeye spends the entire movie hating Quicksilver, and he's really suspicious of him once he joins the team. And at the end, he dies to save him, and he's like, you know what? Yeah, you know, I really misjudged this guy, and he names his kid after him at the end, Nathaniel Pietro Martin.
Poor Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, that's another thing. I really liked
yeah.
Hawkeye in this movie. Hawkeye was absolutely fantastic. The character they gave him
pretty
was
great.
great. However, this is a discussion Kahi and I had real briefly before we started recording. I couldn't get the concept out of my head that the person on screen wasn't really Hawkeye. It was just Jeremy Renner on The Tonight Show, but in his own movie. That is... Well,
He's
let
like,
me explain.
he's got the piano. He's got the piano.
Yeah, he had
and
the
he's-
piano. Yeah, you remember that. Let me explain. You see, before the movie came out, I occasionally, when I have some free time, I watch funny videos, and a lot of those are on the Tonight Show channel. And, interview with all the cast and crew and so on and so forth. And Jeremy Renner, he is exactly...
Reiner. There's no Reiner. There's no I. Isn't it just Renner?
Yes.
Okay, well, him, he plays the character in the movie as he is in those interviews. And the character that was played in the movie has not been seen in any film he has been in. Does that make sense? Like, any Marvel...
Yes.
Hawkeye has never been like that in the prior movies. So to see see them pouring so much character into him for this one film was a bit jarring to me. And I couldn't get it out of my head that it was not Hawkeye. It was just Jeremy.
Look,
Yeah,
it's actually the other way. The character he's playing is what he signed on to play.
No, I know.
Right.
I understand.
There's a bit of a
that.
backstory. He's done many interviews. He was not pleased. Jeremy Renner was not happy at all with how that he was handled in Avengers 1.
Yeah.
How he spent like more than half the movie he was like under
Brainwashed.
mind control, brainwashed, and then near the end, well, it was time for fight scenes, not character development. So he was just out to get revenge on Loki.
You were
He didn't
saying-
have time to build his character. This movie was the first time he really got to play Hawkeye.
Yeah,
Like
I
ever.
understand that.
You were saying that he was stone-faced during a lot of the movies, that Avengers 1 and Thor, and it was just like, well, he didn't really get the best of, he wasn't exactly in a good mood during the movies that you saw. Because
That
one
doesn't
time
have
he was
much to do with it.
in Thor, he was trying to kill him, so he wouldn't exactly be happy about that. And then in
I know
Avengers
how he was.
1, he was angry with Loki, he wanted to get revenge.
I get that.
Yeah.
And that's all good and all. Like I said, I really liked Hawkeye. Hawkeye was one of my favorite characters in this film, which is saying something because I didn't dislike any character from this movie, but
Yeah.
it was definitely jarring from the prior films.
Yeah, no, I
right.
Yeah, I couldn't understand.
I'm
what
glad
you
they
mean.
made it jarring. I'm glad they didn't just keep Hawkeye co-fish.
Absolutely, yeah.
This is the Hawkeye from the comics that I enjoy.
I'm glad they went this route as opposed to just trying to build it for later.
Right.
Definitely, yeah.
Nobody would know. Let's do it right now. Nobody would know.
We had I
fight-
want to make a quick mention of one or two things that we talked
All
about
right,
before.
cool, because I think we got to put this episode down. Nobody would know.
Pretty soon. Go for it.
This is special. So we talked about Viper was talking about her film teacher. I think had some plot holes with the movie. Or she felt there were some
continuity
plot holes.
issues.
Right.
Basically, a lot of media can be judged by its continuity, and if it's not
Right.
got good continuity, then it can be considered not a good film. So, me and my editing teacher were talking about it in class, and he was saying that they're trying to do these nods during the different movies by having continuity through the movies and the universe when there's continuity issues in Avengers 2. For example, Iron Man 3, Tony Stark gave up being Iron Man and now he's Iron Man.
Okay, no, I disagree with that. I don't think he
yeah.
ever gave up. It's very clear at the end of the movie he says, I am Iron Man. Like, I don't think that he ever gave that up. What he did give up is having the arc reactor in his chest. And then, that's another thing. Some people are like, well, how can he be Iron Man if he doesn't have it in his chest?
Well, he can just make a replicate one.
Well, he doesn't need to. I'm like, Rhodey has been wearing the War Machine suit this entire time. And he doesn't have the thing in his chest. A lot of people see, whenever I talk with a lot of people, they always bring that up. Whenever I mention Rhodey, they're like, "Oh yeah, I just never really thought of that before."
Yeah,
so,
and it's like I also asked myself the same question. It's like, why is he still Iron Man? They never acknowledge that. But I put some thought into it, and I did some reading up on what happens in the movie, and really what it is that Tony doesn't give up being Iron Man. He just restarts being Iron Man.
Right, and he wants to do better. He wants to grow bigger, and that's. Yeah. I mean, he has the Iron Legion, and he's building Ultron, so that he doesn't have to be Iron Man anymore. But he's not giving up being Iron Man just because he doesn't want to be anymore. He wants to find a better way to save the world.
Yeah, he wants to improve himself and really just kind of like, I guess, find himself, because kind of like, throughout the entire movie, you know, he's kind of a wreck. He's really an emotional wreck. He has PTSD. He's addicted to building suits over and over again that he doesn't use till like the end of the movie, but he just has them around. He's basically a hoarder. So Tony's basically psychotic throughout the entire movie, and by the end of it, he just kind of like, he comes to terms with himself. He's like, all right, well, my life's a wreck right now. Let's just go ahead and restart. Destroying his Iron Man suits and the fact that his home was destroyed, I feel like kind of symbolizes that, where he really is just working from the ground up now.
And it doesn't, like, I don't know why they don't make this connection more valid or more, like, obvious in the movie, but Helen Cho, her, you know, the Asian girl who's doing all the healing stuff, that's the evolution of Extremis. That's what, when Tony says he fixed Extremis at the end of Iron Man 3, what it ends up in is Helen Cho and her work. And that's what leads to Ultron building the Vision body, is that he's using you know, the Extremis technology with, like, this nanites and also, like, vibranium, basically.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
You should be down, but
I was just thinking, like, why don't they do anything with Extremis? What they literally do. They literally show him, like, repairing bodies. Now, it's slow. You know, Extremis, they would grow automatically, but they would also explode. And the idea is that, like, it takes a lot slower to do it, but that's how they're able to patch up Hawkeye and how they're able to do all this stuff, making it stable.
Well, yeah, Tony Stark really is the Ultron twin then, if he's trying to make new suits of armor over and over again.
Now, two last things. One is, we also talked about, one of the things Viper brought up, is the Nick Fury and his eye patch.
Yeah, his eye patch. He burnt his eye patch, and I assumed that meant he was going to give up being the Nick Fury of S.H.I.E.L.D., and then he's back with his good old eye patch.
And then, LJ, what did you say? You said something about it being a symbol, right?
I said it was a symbolic burning. His original eye patch. He burned his original one, but he had a new one. Now, don't get me wrong. I see where you were coming from back then, but I still agree with what I was saying.
Right.
In that,
I think it's like Iron Man 3 all over again.
Exactly. It's like Iron Man. He's just restarting himself.
Yeah, the S.H.I.E.L.D. is restarting. That's why they showed up at the end of the Avengers 2.
Yeah, and that's why, you know, the eye patch is just a personal symbol. It's like if I burned my current Miru and got a new one.
Yep.
Right. And, okay, I said beforehand that I felt the eye patch was a weird choice because it symbolized, like, if I said I want to start over and I burned my glasses and I got a new pair of glasses, it would be like, you know, it's like, I get some things are symbols for characters, but, you know, but I did say, I think what LJ's saying works, and it would work better if at Hawkeye's house, Nick Fury doesn't have his eye patch. And then at the end, where you see him on the helicarrier, then he has the eye patch, and he's like putting it on. He's like, "Yeah, you know, I'm back, guys." Nick Fury.
That would be great.
See, that would tie that whole thing. That would make sense that, like, he resigns. He's like, "I'm not the director of anything," and he stopped being Nick Fury. And then when the world needs him, then he's like, "Okay, I'm putting the eye patch back on."
Yup.
I'm coming alive.
They had a protocol.
That okay. Agents of Shield. I want to touch on that real quick. I just want to alert you guys. In Agents of Shield,
It's
there's
good.
been this,
Spoiler
it's
alert.
Good. It's really good.
Watch it.
Coulson has been working on this thing called Theta Protocol, and it's been building up for these last several episodes, and nobody knows what it is. And it's this big mystery, and everyone's like, Theta Protocol, what is it? And it was a huge thing, and like all these people like turned on each other because of it, and that's been going on for like weeks and weeks. We don't know what Theta Protocol is. The last episode, they revealed that Theta Protocol is building that new helicarrier. So
Oh, wow.
it's a nice. It was the time, like me and Mess were talking about. Like initially, we didn't like that because it came out of nowhere. It was like, oh,
I
he
was
just
like,
has a
I thought
helicarrier.
Fury was like hiding out and had no resources.
Right, he had
and,
nothing.
and wanted people to think he was dead. So how did he get a helicarrier?
Right, and I was like, that kind of just comes out of complete nowhere. But
now,
then
they've been
now that
building
they
it
tied
for,
it
like,
into
months.
right now they tied it in Agents of Shield, and it's a payoff for something we've been waiting for a long time. I was like, okay, that I can get behind that. That makes much more
Hashtag
sense.
it's all connected.
The last thing. Oh, sorry. Do you want to say something?
If you're going to continue the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing, this is just going to be like a random thing I was going to say. So, do you want to
Okay.
continue, or do you
Hurry
want
up.
me to?
No, keep going.
I was going to say,
Say.
what did you? What do you think of Ultron's like prime form? I thought it looked weird.
He didn't look as good as his first form.
He looked so
Yeah.
pompous.
Oh, you mean his final
His
form?
lips were so small.
Yeah. It was a
I
little
don't know.
odd.
I liked his prime form.
He should have had more
okay.
distinct
I
forms.
thought the
I
introduction was
understand-
really cool, by the way, where he just crushes
Yeah.
his old head.
Yeah.
I liked his initial thing where he comes out and he's this damaged
They're all
Iron Drone,
puppets.
and he has the. I understand why he didn't keep that form for the entire movie, but I like that the most because it's very recognizably Ultron, but it's also like this beat up version of Iron Man, and I feel like that sells the concept behind Ultron in this movie so well visually. They don't need to spell it out for you.
Yeah.
He's
I
he's
just love
he's
that
just a
entire
ravaged
scene when
Tony
he's
Stark.
like, how can you be worthy? You're all killers. And you're just like, oh.
Dangling on little strings.
Strings.
What was your
Last thing.
Strings.
Civil War, future of the Marvel Universe going forward. What do you guys think of this new extended cast? Knowing that all the new Avengers are coming back for Civil War.
It's dynamite.
And
Dude,
Ant-Man.
it
I love
looks
some
Yeah,
variety.
I'm looking forward to these new
Thor
characters.
needs
yeah.
to take a break. Hulk is very interesting.
Well, he is
I don't know where
taking
they're
a
going with
break.
Hulk. Yeah, he is taking a break.
Apparently, it's kind of interesting. I read up. Apparently, they intended for Hulk to go up through the atmosphere and see the
give me a second.
stars,
Right, I heard that too.
but
Alright,
they
I'll be
cut
right back.
that because they didn't want to give people false hope for a Planet Hulk movie.
Nice. You suck, Marvel. I hate you. He'll be in Guardians of the Galaxy too, calling it now. But anyway,
Random
and yeah,
Mark
Iron Man can
Ruffalo in
recoup
Guardians
for
of the
Civil
Galaxy.
War. Yeah, I know, right? The new Avengers cast is wonderful, and I love that they're bringing in some of the side characters who can now get a somewhat starring role. The Civil War is like going to be more packed than Avengers 2 was. The cast list
It's
got
basically
revealed
Avengers,
today.
like-
It's basically
the
Avengers
evolution of what happens to the
2.5.
Avengers. Yeah.
That's why
But it's
Falcon's
like-
actor came out saying, "Oh, this movie is going to be like Avengers 3.8 or something like that."
Yeah.
I do think they need more like world built movies that are just like, hey, this is what's going on between these Avengers films. Because
Yeah.
like Captain America, the thing about Captain America is that he really does have no life outside of fighting stuff. So it's easier to wrap his
like
movie
Elder.
around doing all this stuff. Because, right,
I'm telling you, I am Captain America.
There are
Language,
certain
language, guys,
parallels.
language.
Yeah, language. However, I must say, I should be Spider-Man.
no, you,
Nah.
you shouldn't.
Yeah, okay.
That should never be a thing that happens.
Kahi,
No.
Kahi.
Because
I'm
you're
just
so
saying.
weedy, am I right?
Yeah, no,
There we go. Messel gets it.
Spider-Man's at
Spider-Man,
least
you
been
have
dating.
to- Right, I was like, Spider-Man is pretty popular with the ladies, and
There was a pause.
well,
Kahi.
to be fair, Spider-Man's main love, no, not main love, one of Spider-Man's love interests is a cat person.
So we're moving on. So yeah, I'm Captain America, right, guys? Yeah.
So the absolute last thing is a theory I saw on Reddit, and they said if you've noticed, there's been many villains absorbed into the Infinity Stones so far. You had Red Skull being absorbed into the Tesseract. You had Ronin being absorbed into the Power Gem. You had Malekith being absorbed into the Aether. And we now have Ultron being absorbed, or not absorbed, but like being killed by the Mind Stone. And all these people have been killed. So yeah, they're theorizing, what if these people are all back in Infinity War?
Well, I was going to say, one of the tropes with Ultron is that he always comes back. I don't think he's dead.
Yeah, I don't think Ultron's dead too. He's too much of a great villain.
Vision did say he didn't want to kill him.
Yeah, they did teleport at the end. I'm pretty sure it was a teleport and not a shot. I'm pretty sure.
I feel like not Vision. I feel like Red Skull is way too important of a character to leave hanging. Out of all those characters, they could all die except for Vision. Not Vision, Red Skull. Good grief. Red Skull, I feel like has to come back somehow. He's too big of a Captain America here. He's one of the big villains of the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's going to be part of Infinity War. I kind of think that Infinity War Part 1 is going to end with like everybody dying. And then somebody's going to use the Time Stone and go back in time and fix everything. And that's Infinity War Part 2. That's my personal thing.
I think it's going to be all the new Avengers get defeated and then the old guard comes back to save the day. And it's like Iron Man and Thor and Hulk. And
that can also, I can
back
see
from
that
the
happen.
dead Steve Rogers somehow.
I would have... See, Planet Hulk would work, though, because they're going into space. So they could just send Hulk off into space, and he does do the Hulk stuff, right? And he comes back in Infinity War because they're fighting Thanos in space.
It would make sense, if only.
Oh, well.
Anyway, my final thing, speaking of Thanos, is, man, that was a terrible mid-credits scene.
That was pretty bad.
But it was only because we had already seen the gauntlet in that Infinity War teaser trailer. If we hadn't seen that, it would have been cool. But we did, so it kind of sucked.
Right.
Yeah.
It is noticeable. It's for a different hand than the one in Odin's place.
Right,
that doesn't matter
two
anyway.
gauntlets.
So, yeah.
Okay, that's based.
These are our thoughts on Avengers 2.
Yeah.
Everybody, did you like it collectively?
Yes.
That was a great movie.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I liked it.
Fantastic.
Good movie.
So much good character stuff. We even talked about the dinner party, but that's the best part of that.
Avengers 2 was awesome-tacular.
No! We have our own unique thing. Okay?
Avengers 2 was the best.
Was good.
Was fantastic.
Fantastic.
Oh my god.
Well, thank you for joining us for TTV Talks. Hope you enjoyed our coverage of Age of Ultron. I'm Kahi.
I'm Messina.
I'm LJ.
I'm Venom.
I'm Viper.
And we'll see you next time on TTV Talks.
Leave your thoughts on TTV Message Boards or in the comments below.
Yeah, Audible. BS1.
Yeah, I think there's an Age of Ultron audiobook you can get from audibletrial.com/TTV. There actually, there's a... do you know audiobooks or comics?
Okay, yeah, anyway, bye.
They do audiobooks or comics. Give us money.